And a very good evening to you, and welcome to today's edition of Politics 101. I want to welcome everyone who is joining us, whether you're joining us from our beautiful country of Guyana or you're joining us from the larger and wider Caribbean, um, or you're joining us from North America, Europe, further afield, Africa. I want to welcome you on South America, our sisters and brothers who are there in French Guiana, in Suriname, in Brazil, joining us. I want to welcome you all down to Politics 101 tonight. It's been a busy day in the news in Guyana, dominated for the most part by news coming out of the People's National Congress. I think today is the deadline for nominations. And, we've been covering the race there and the preparation for the Congress. Overnight, we saw the lifting of the suspension of Vanessa Kissoon. As you know, Vanessa was suspended from the party by the leader, still the leader, Mr. David Granger, after an alleged altercation between Vanessa and then General Secretary Mr. Oscar Clark. Mr. Granger, the leader, suspended her from the party. And I think on Wednesday night, that would have been last night or the night before. But anyhow, the Central Executive Committee voted unanimously to reinstate Vanessa to the membership of the PNC. And, Vanessa is one of the popular younger members of the party. She, of course, is from Linden and has been quite active there in Linden, very active. She rose to prominence, I would say, during the struggles in Linden in 2012, where she and Sharma Solomon were the leading lights in that struggle. And I have to say something about that struggle that a lot of people may not know, or some of you may have forgotten. When the PPP, government of the day, signaled its intention to remove the subsidy, the electricity subsidy from Linden, the coalition at the time supported the move. A lot of people either don't know that or forgot it. The coalition was not yet in power, so it was the APNU. The APNU, it wasn't the AFC, I'm wrong. It wasn't the coalition, there was no coalition then. The APNU supported the PPP's move to remove the subsidy on electricity. They quickly backpedaled on that. But that, I think, was the beginning of the conflict between Vanessa and Sharma Solomon and the other Linden activists and their own party in that. But suffice to say that another member was being put in charge of the PNC operation there in Linden over Vanessa. And so the genesis of that conflict started with the struggle over the electricity thing. However, as I said, the Central Executive Committee of the PNC, they voted unanimously. Interestingly, I think the motion was put by Amna Ali, the General Secretary, and as my memory serves me right, Amna was in the anti-Vanessa camp, but I think she said time has passed and it's time for the party to make up, and so therefore she would have put the motion, and I think Aubrey Norton seconded the motion. And so Vanessa's back in the PNC. And I noticed that she has been nominated for executive committee by some of the slates that I've seen. I've seen the Sophia nomination. Sophia is back in Basil Williams for leader. Sister Valda Lawrence as chairman. And I think as part of their committee, they have Vanessa Kissoon. So that's been circulating a lot in the news this past 24 hours. I understand Mr. Harmon has released his slate. I've not seen it yet, but a couple of minutes ago I was told the slate was released. Hopefully I'll be able to see it before the end of the show and share it with you. So that's a big development there. We also saw this week in the news some disturbing information coming out of GCOM. We know that the WP had proposed an independent commission, an independent committee to oversee the installation of those who are applying to be the GCOM CEO, deputy CEO, research officer, and a number of vacancies there at GCOM. As we know, Mr. Lowenfield and Roxanne Myers and so on were for the most part hounded out of GCOM, and now they are looking to fill those positions. And usually it's the commissioners who oversee the interviewing process. And the WPA proposed that instead of the commission, which is partisan, 3 opposition, 3 government nominated, and of course the chairman, we propose that we should have an independent committee doing the interviewing, and so that the perception of partisanship will be removed. Commissioner Desmond Trotman, WPA member, he formally proposed it, and it was supported by the other 2 commissioners, Mr. Corbin and Mr. Alexander. When it came to a vote at the wider commission, it was rejected by the PPP commissioners, and the chairman voted with them. So it was voted on. Vincent Alexander, as he explained on this show on Tuesday, he then said, okay, let's then have a mix panel that includes the commission plus some independent people. So it was a kind of a compromise position. If the PPP was saying that they didn't want independent people, and the opposition commissioners were saying, look, we would like independent people. I suppose a mixed panel was a consensus position. That too was voted on by the PPP and supported by the chairman. So it is very clear that the PPP, with the support of the chairman, wants the commission to continue to determine the process and to oversee the process of recruitment of these officers. Now, the thing here is that if one is talking about reform at GCOM, one would have thought that this would be a very good opportunity for us to begin that process of reform. Unfortunately, it is not to be. Vincent was on here, and I noticed that several of the news, the other news sources, I'm seeing my producers putting up here, I think it's News Source who quoted our program, quoted Vincent from our program on Tuesday night, and Stabroek News Today in their story also quoted Vincent on this program. So, you know, I mean, I assume that we are performing some function here on these programs that the mainstream media have been quoting. We know that Village Voice quotes sometimes from this program and other programs on platforms. That story there at GCOM, Village Voice broke the news this past weekend, and in an item they call Free for All, and in which they broke the news that there have been a lot of contracts that have been awarded, and these contracts have not gone through the tendering process. As we know, the procurement commission is not in place, and so therefore it's free for all. They're giving out these government contracts left, right, and center with no oversight. So that's another big story that we saw in the news this week. Of course, this past week, we also saw reports of the PPP proposing draft legislation against what they call election rigging. And they're proposing that there should be stiff penalties for people who rig elections. You know, on the surface of it, that's okay. That sounds right. People should not rig elections. In one instance, they're proposing life sentence for people who rig elections and so forth. Many people have looked at it and said, but this is ridiculousness. In the first place, you know, if you are dealing with a sensitive issue, such as election rigging, in which both parties have been accused of election rigging, you would want both parties and civil society all to be consulted before you make these draconian measures. If you have already charged people from the opposition side with electoral fraud, if you have already criminalized them for electoral fraud, and then you go and you propose these draconian measures against electoral fraud, then it is clear that your intention is not really to clean up the election mess or to get rid of election fraud. It's really to get at your opponents. So quite a lot to talk about in the news this past week. And of course, with me tonight is no stranger to you, my brother and friend, comrade, Lincoln Lewis, General Secretary of the Trade Union Congress, long-standing trade unionist, but he's also an activist, a political activist. As you know, countries like ours, we tend to wear several hats, and sometimes one is not very clear which hat you work in. But Lincoln is known as a trade unionist and a very strong advocate for human rights, constitutional rights, the rule of law. And the man who was coined the term in Guyana, economic genocide. All those things are relevant, and Lincoln and I are going to be talking this evening about some of the issues I raised there in the beginning. And we're going to open the phones later on for you to ask questions of Lincoln and perhaps myself. So the phones will be open. So welcome to Politics 101. I know that I don't have to tell you all to share the link and all those things that you do so that others will know that we're on Politics 101, where we try to put things in perspective, give you information, give you analysis, give you perspective, and then hear from you. So it's what we call an all-round program. Lincoln, welcome to Politics 101.
Thank you, David.
It's been a while.
I am glad that you have invited me this evening, and I will wish to advise the viewership that I am prepared to take the tough questions tonight, because the issues currently are serious issues, and we are in serious times, and we need serious actions. So,
yes.
Thank you again.
Thanks. Let's start with the issue of these contracts that the Village Voice reported that are being given out left, right, and center without going through the tendering process. The Procurement Commission is not in place. What do you make of that? First of all, let me put the question more direct. We know that the PPP has a history of disregarding the rule of law. Is this more of the same from the PPP? Is it something that is going to have far-reaching consequences?
Let me say to you, David, that the PPP has just touched the reset button when they came back to power last year. What you have here is a bunch of brigands, a bunch of thieves. What they intend to do is to continue to feast off of the people's wealth in this country. And what they do is to coin it or couch it in a way that they set groups against groups, race against race, while they feast on the wealth of this country. These guys don't care. These are a bunch of brigands, as I said. These are a bunch of thieves, I'm telling you. They will thief out the coffers of the state. You understand me? Overnight. The Procurement Commission, if you remember well, that during the time since that commission, the Constitution made provision for that commission. It was never established during the life of the PPP government. It was the Granger government who was hard pressed, and they put it in place. The life has come to an end, and they decide that they're not going to do it because they're going to pass these contracts out to their friends, their families, and their cronies. This country, you know, what's happening here is that you have about 200 persons in this country who are super rich, and they're feasting off the state coffers, while the masses continue to feed at the table, feed under the table, the crumbs from the table. That's what is happening. And until such time that we as a people come to terms, regardless of which political party you support, and take a position, we are going to continue to be a rich country with poor people.
A rich country with poor people. With poor people. Yeah. Quite well put, Lincoln. Lincoln, let me get you to comment on this. When the President Irfaan Ali said that he would not meet with the opposition leader to staff important constitutional positions and put in place important constitutional commissions until Mr. Harmon recognizes his presidency. A lot of people got carried away with the act itself and not with the consequences of the act. So first of all, the man was saying that I am not carrying out my constitutional duty to engage the opposition leader, to put in place constitutional commissions and to make constitutional appointments. And in a sense was violating the Constitution. Now we are seeing, as you said, the life of the Procurement Commission has come to an end, and there is no commission. So it seems to me that there was more to what this man was doing when he said that he is not going to meet with the opposition leader. And you know, some people are saying, but if you don't want to meet the opposition leader, to hell with you. And like I was saying, some of us got caught up with the act itself and not the consequences of the act. And now we're seeing the far-reaching consequences of the act. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Let me say to you, let me start by saying that the issue of the Constitution, the PPP in opposition, they give you the glib talk about the Constitution and respecting it. These are people who don't have respect for Constitution and laws. They don't have respect for it. They will breach it every day, and they justify the reason for doing so. Even the spirit of the Constitution, they don't believe in what we call in inclusion. Earlier in your comment, you spoke about the new law that they're looking at, the laws that they're looking at. And while they're looking at those laws, they're not prepared to talk with anybody about them. They decide what it's going to do, what it's going to be, and they're going to go to the parliament, and they're going to use their simple majority to ram it through parliament, and so be it. We have to, as a people, cannot allow ourselves to continue to be divided on issues that impact our well-being. We cannot, what it has done over the time is to really say to you, look, these constitutional things, they don't mean anything to us. I'm not going to talk with Armand. I'm going to, and how stupid some of us can be, how ill-informed we can be. Let me show you this. The president, by way of election, the result of that election, while being challenged by the coalition, you have been placed in office, you have been sworn in as president, you have taken your seat. Armand, just the same, has taken his seat in the National Assembly as leader of the opposition. You, in your budget, both budgets, you have passed a budget giving allocation to the office of the leader of the opposition, and Armand is being paid as leader of the opposition. What nonsense you come to tell us that unless he unequivocally declare that you're president, you're not going to meet him. And people fall for that. And when you fall for these things, these simple things, you give them an opportunity. What they've been doing is giving these guys an opportunity as an excuse to do the things that they're doing. None of the Constitutional Commission are operating. Procurement is not there. Public Service Commission, they kick it to the wall. Police Service Commission, they kick it to the wall, right? You have the Human Rights Commission, which never been put in place. You have the Ethnic Relations Commission. You have the Public Service Appellate Tribunal. All these things are important. If the Constitution says we must have them, then they must be there. And we must hold them accountable. They must deliver on that. Look, this whole question, all these contracts that they're giving out, and they meet to the point where, you know, we are accepting too many serious matters, simple things. Let me tell you what. It was this PPP who roasted, who attacked the coalition for not doing the audit, on the question of the island gas project in this country. They have been given an opportunity in government and they have failed to deliver. The monies that we are talking about in this country, the monies can build That money that we have failed to audit, and we will have to go down the road. With the money is Guyana money. That money can give maybe 10 million, Paul. That money, when you look at it, it can stop us. It can cause a situation if we properly can acquire that money. What we can have is a situation where maybe for the next 10 years, 10 to 12 years, we don't pay income tax in this country. It's a lot of money. A couple months ago, quite recently, the vice president, who is czar for oil and gas, what he did, he announced that he's going to give to the sugar workers who are made redundant, whose jobs were made redundant. He's going to give them $250,000. That money can give nearly this whole country $250,000 and more. More than once, more than twice. These are serious issues, and we take them for granted. We need to hold these men and women accountable for the stewardship. These are serious matters. And now what the excuse that is come, that the people who had applied, they did not meet the requirement. So we are now going to look at some local ones. We're going to put them together with some foreign ones and see if we can make a consortium to go to audit them. You know what these men are doing? These men are preparing to form their own operation outside of the state to hive off the people's money. And it is serious as that, because these are guys don't have shame, you know. Mm-hmm. It's that they have no shame. They will move to do these type of things. And pardon me, sir. These men are basic thieves.
Yeah.
They will thief you out.
Yeah, and what we see here, Lincoln, is of course what sometimes we miss, which is that we take the PPP for granted because we think that they're not serious about what they're doing. You know, we look at the surface and not beneath the surface, in the sense that these things that the PPP is doing, it's all part of a grand plan of domination of the society, of a plan to ensure that the resources, the common resources, all go to the PPP and its cronies. So it's part of a really cohesive plan that we sometimes miss because we often get very, we get very impatient. We don't want to go through the tedious process of looking at what they're doing, exposing them. You know, we are saying that we know what they're doing. And at a larger level, we know what they're doing. But sometimes you have to go through the stuff as you have gone through them there in order to let our people know the gravity of the situation. And so therefore, the clearer you are, the easier it is to hold them to account. You have to know what you're holding them to account for. And thanks for going through that whole thing there. Let's talk specifically here about what's happening at GCOM. Do you think that part of that move to create these new laws, to tamper the representation of the People's Act, because in effect that's what they're doing, do you think that the objective here is to begin to rig the election from the position of the law?
Very much so.
The law to rig the election.
Let me tell you something, David. The PPP means that this country, listen to me. You gotta listen to the messages. Before the last election, Mr. Jadvio and others come out and say, we come to take back our country. You know what they're telling you? That this country belonged to them. And to hell was anybody else. So these laws now that they want to tamper with is to make sure that they put the boundaries in such a way that they will remain in power for the rest of their lives. This is how they behave. And until such time, let me tell you what, the opposition has to be very shrewd on this issue. The opposition and civil society can be shrewd on this issue. This issue here, when you started to, in your opening comments, you spoke of what happened at GCOM. Let me tell you what. Before it was announced by the media that Boodoo would have been being a candidate for the post of chief election officer, it was already, it was a what we call an open secret that the PPP said they're bringing back Boodoo. Boodoo was involved in the question of in the Linden situation where he gave the AFC seat to the PPP, and Sam Hines, who was then Prime Minister, squat on that seat for 5 years. How is it that you have that type of evidence where it happened and you are going to bring that man back there? Something is wrong. Something wrong with this society, not them, because they know what they're doing. These are people, their greatest strength is that they have no bloody shame about anything. They don't care what you do. Let me tell you what. Unless the unless the opposition is prepared and civil society, that commission to be overhauled, it must be this commission and the next election. There must be some conditions that the opposition must start to demand. There shall be no election. There can be no election until certain conditions are met. Everybody crying about the composition of the commission, that it worked for gridlock. We have to find another means of having it done. Everybody, a number of persons are crying that some element of our election we should see a first past the poll system. That is not important for them. They want to sit down at their quarters and tell people who must represent, who must be the MP, even though people don't know them, people don't vote for them, who must be the MP in Region 5, who must be the MP in Region 3, who represent in the region. The people must start demanding, and the people must have the authority to elect those people.
What's your view, Lincoln, on the independent panel that was proposed by Trotman and the other commissioners and supported by the WPA and others?
Yes, you can get a professional group that does it and make the recommendations. We'll put in place the what we call the not merely evaluating the job, but to look at the job and what the applicant brings to the job. You understand me? And weight it and and make a recommendation. These guys don't want that. What they want is political acts.
Right. Are you
they
surprised?
want people who will take instruction from party rather than delivering for the people.
Are you surprised that even when Alexander proposed a mixed committee, that is to have the commissioners plus some independent people, this was also voted on by the PPP and supported by the chair? Are you surprised at that?
No, I'm not surprised. The
Why
PPP,
not?
Because the PPP is an organization. If they say that they're going to break something down, right? you can come with whatever reason you want. They're going to break it down. That's how they behave.
They don't believe in compromise.
Let me tell you what.
They do not believe in compromise.
No, and they don't believe in what they promote democracy. What they believe in is serfdom. These guys, let me tell you what. I saw somebody talk about the question of bringing workers from like Bangladesh and those places. You know why they're doing it? Because there's a new process with the PPP and some of these business people. They're in a process of reintroducing indentureship in this country. They're going to keep some of the people out from the Caribbean because they know they will come here and demand their pound of flesh, demand that they be treated in a certain way, that the standards are up, the standards are consistent with the ILO. What they are doing is bringing people who will be subservient to them. They are now reintroducing indentureship, which to a large extent has started with some of the employers, where they have been bringing people from India and treat them anyhow. So so I'm telling you, this thing is a bigger scheme. A bigger scheme.
Yes. What about this thing about giving people life sentence or rigging elections? What's your take on that?
I hope that I hope that the law that they want to put in place, they don't be the people who got blamed by, right? You understand me? And I'm going to tell you this, the only way you can deal with the people is put boots on the ground, is to people in the street. They don't like it that. And let me tell you something. You see what they're doing to the police force? Because they believe they can get them to shoot people down on the road. That is the problem. That is the plan. After they burn down the police station at Brickdam, they're going to do some things and tell the boys, put up some building and tell the boys, if they can put the building up, or they ain't going to give somebody for a hotel, right? You got to think all kind of things. These guys don't care. What is about, they don't believe in governance. They believe in rulership. They believe in ruling people. Yeah.
So you actually, Lincoln, you mentioned it just now in passing, but you actually believe the time has come for people to take to the streets?
Yes, I believe so. I strongly believe so. I strongly believe so. The government is using state resources to subdue other democratic forces in this country. That's what they've been doing, and they don't care. Let me tell you what. Let me give you, when you talk about race in this country, plenty of people are afraid of it. Let me tell you what. This is nothing else. When I listened to President Ali at the UN quite recently, and he's stumbling at the UN, I am convinced. I look at him and I said, this man do not believe in what he was saying, what he was given to say, right? Let me tell you what's going to happen. I've seen on a Facebook post quite recently, a member of the what you call election commission, one of the commissioners, making a point where she accused IPADA of funding the Village Voice. That IPADA is doing it, right? Mark my word, whatever monies or grant, state grant that IPADA, right, receive in the past, they will seek either to cut it or to remove it totally. That is the type of people you're dealing with. What they intend to do is to trample a group of people, walk on them, kill their spirit, and more so, destroy them, that they will not rise up and stand up for anything that is dignified.
Lincoln, you mentioned the Village Voice News there, which is the newspaper in Guyana. It's a weekly newspaper. It's printed on Sundays. It is not yet a daily paper. You and I, after we exited the Kaieteur News, that's where our columns are in the Village Voice. And I would imagine that, like any newspaper that is starting, it will have to creep first before it begins to walk. And there are, of course, constraints in printing newspaper in any society because of the advent of new forms of media. But in a situation where the majority of the media after the election last year, probably before, those newspapers and other media are very clear that they are in support of the government, and they shut out any opinion that is contrary to the narrative of the government for the most part. And so therefore, a newspaper like the Village Voice, which aims to, I imagine, pick up the slack in terms of being an independent media, would fall into that category. Am I correct in saying that the Village Voice, from your understanding, is a newspaper that intends to give voice to those who are left out and to take up a very independent position?
Very much so. I've had an opportunity to read the front-based comment when the print paper was launched. And that is it. What the tenor of it, saying that the paper is here to give another narrative that is supported by those who are marginalized, those who are oppressed, and not merely carrying or regurgitating what the establishment will want to hear. It is not an opposition paper. It is a paper that gives voice to the voiceless.
And it's like I said, it's a Sunday paper. It's not on the stands every day, but during the week, there is an online version of the paper. Is that so?
Yeah, yes, there is that online version during the week, carrying. In fact, I've been asked to write during the week to do op-eds and features for during the week. I'm doing my what you call my weekend Eye on Guyana, and I've been asked if I can double up and do something for them during the week.
Yes,
the point here is that I'm positively considering it, because I've been getting positive feedbacks from writing for Village Voice. I have not been Armstrong in any way. I can say it as it is, providing I'm not libeling anybody. So I've been doing I'm encouraged, and I'll continue to write. That's what is it.
Yeah, I myself have been approached to write during the week. Like you, I do a column on Sundays, and I've been approached to do a piece during the week, because my understanding is that the paper wants to do a proper online paper, which people can get in their phones and their ills every morning. So it's an online paper that is not confined to a website, but that goes into your phone and goes into your email and your WhatsApp, that you get it there every morning. Is that your understanding, Lincoln?
Yes, I that's my understanding. Definitely, it's my
And
understanding.
yeah, yeah. I've heard from the editorial people of the newspaper that part of the constraints of the paper of getting a daily paper, first of all, online and then on the stand, of course, is that any newspaper has to attract revenue. And as you know, revenue is a big deal. From your understanding, would the paper be appealing to readers to take out subscription? Subscriptions?
Yeah, my understanding, when I was approached to start writing, doing op-eds during the week, do pieces during op-eds and other pieces during the week, is that the intent is to attract readers to the point where where the paper will be asking people to take on weekly subscription or monthly subscription or what have you, and to go to major to people who believe that in supporting free press and help the voiceless. Those people will be asked to make contribution in some way or the other.
Some way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know Stabroek News, for example, does a online subscription that people take out a subscription to access Stabroek News online. And I suppose that's the direction Village Voice appears to be going. I want to appeal to our listeners and viewers here tonight to look out for the advertisement from the newspaper, to ask you, especially those of us who live overseas and are not able to get the physical paper on the ground, to look out for that advertisement that will invite you to take out a subscription to a daily online Village Voice news that you can get in your phones and on your WhatsApp and perhaps in your email. So to look out for that advertisement for this daily initiative that is about to be launched by the Village Voice News. You know, we have to support our media, you know. When you're locked out from the mainstream media, you have to find ways and means of getting the information. Now, all this stuff that we've been talking here, if it were not for programs like Politics 101, Bostonian Morning Time, Mark Benchop, In the Ring with Sherrod Duncan, Rickford Burke, and Gavin Matthews, and all these programs that are every day bringing the news as they break to you, bringing opinions to you, and then Village Voice, you know, the printed media, which of course is out there on the stands in Guyana, but brings you the breaking news as they happen to you. We want to support, and some of you, I understand, have already been making subscriptions to Village Voice News. And so I am urging the rest of us to look out for that advertisement when it comes your way and to please take out that subscription. And from what I understand from the Village Voice people, it would be something in the vicinity of $2 per week and $8 per month. I mean, just imagine for $8 or $10 per month, you get daily news, breaking news in your phone, in your WhatsApp, in your email for just $10 a month or $8 a month. I don't have the numbers here with me, but please look out and I'll be keeping you updated on the Village Voice initiative. We've got to get this information as they occur to our people. And we want you to support that initiative over there at Village Voice. You can go there right now and on the website and make a contribution of your own. Some of you have been doing that, but we're urging you to wait for that that advertisement so you can take out your monthly or your quarterly subscription to get the daily news, not just the weekend news, the daily news in your phones, in your emails and so forth. I want to hail out to all of you who are joining us on CAMS TV. Those of you who are joining us on Politics 101 through their website, our website, and those of you who are joining us on YouTube. Those are the three platforms that we're on. The YouTube platform, Politics 101, and of course, CAMS TV. Please share the link so there's know that we're on. Politics 101 is on right now. Tell you what, we're going to open the phones shortly. In fact, we're going to open the phones now. Let me see, what time is it? Yes, we're going to open the phones now and get you to come in and to ask your questions of Mr. Lewis, 604-9722. Go ahead, Lincoln.
No, I just advising you, comrade. I wish that to be addressed as comrade. Comrade
Lincoln Lewis. We all come out of the days when it was not a crime in Guyana and across our Caribbean to be called comrade. Coming out of, a lot of people think it's a communist storm, but it's part of the trade union, movement. And Lincoln, you cut your teeth in the trade union movement, and I often tell people, long before we have had political parties in Guyana and English-speaking Caribbean, they were trade unions, and the political parties actually came out of the trade unions. They were the political arm of the trade unions. Comment on that.
Yeah, a lot of people will not know this, but when Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw became premier of St. Kitts, Nevis, and Anguilla, he was serving as president of the St. Kitts Trade and Labor Union.
Yes.
And in fact, what you call the executive of the union became the executive of the country.
Yes.
Right? So in Jamaica, you had Bustamante, you had
yes.
Norman Manley, and
the National Workers Union.
Yeah, and the Jamaica Labor Union, yeah. Right?
The Bustamante.
Yes, and the National Workers Union. Yes, BITU, right? So you've had that, those were the precursor to the political movement in the Caribbean. And what has happened, for instance, Guyana, the issue of one man, one vote, the fight for it started in 1926 by Critchlow. And when the PPP, what we call the PPP Political Affairs Committee came to fore, before the PPP itself launched itself as a political party, they joined with Critchlow to advocate for one man, one vote. And that thing went on to the PPP, right? So when I always write that when people tell you that it was J. Gunn and Janet, the J. Guns who fought for this thing, I just tell them that when Critchlow started in 1926 for one man, one vote, universal health care, education, free education, primary education, prison reform, and a number of other things. When they were talking in 1926, you think of it, Chetty born 1918. He was 8 years of age. Born and born 1923, right? he was 3 years of age, right? One was in short pants and the other one was just come out of diaper, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the trade union that people want to throw aside, and even some of the political operatives, even when they're walking in parliament, you get Critchlow statue there. Plenty of them don't know who Critchlow and what he has done for this
and
country.
that he was he was a member of parliament. And
yeah, legislature. Let me tell you something about. Let me tell before I go on, David. Let me tell you something about. You raised me on this matter. I remember a couple years ago, a man came into the TUC and he walked in. You know, TUC is housed in the Critchlow Labour College, and the guy came and he said to me, "I want to know this college here. Is it named after this man you bought, Nathaniel Critchlow?" I said, "Yes." And he started to tell me, he said, "I'm from Australia. This man made it possible for us to have, as a country, to have what we call trade unions, because he was the man in the British Empire who started the first trade union. People say the Caribbean, but the British Empire."
What year was that?
Right?
What year was that?
He started to build a union in 1905. He started the process. Remember, the first dock worker strike was in 1905.
1905.
But trade union ordinance to make trade union legal didn't come until 1921.
That's right. That's right.
So what we got to do, we got to understand, people outside and the legacy of Critchlow must be protected. We must not allow these fly-by-night to come to tell you, Thief Critchlow legacy and I need to change.
Yes. All right. So Lincoln Lewis is here, and 604-9722. Please give us a call and get to talk with comrade, brother Lincoln Lewis. Lincoln, I said in the opening that 2 nights ago, I think, the Central Executive of the PNC reinstated the membership of Vanessa Kissoon. I know that is an issue you know very well. You are, although you're from West Berbice, you spend your working days in Linden. So for all intents and purposes,
I'm still working, I'm still working, David.
I mean, days when you were a member of the proletariat.
I am still there.
What's your take on the reinstatement of Vanessa to the PNC?
It is unfortunate of what has happened over the years. And I'm going to tell you why I've said it's unfortunate. There are some people, their orientation is about dictating to people. Vanessa Kissoon, as far as I'm concerned, I was near and dear to that issue, following it all the time. I've done nothing wrong. It is wrong for when someone questions what is happening in your organization to use the rules to get rid of them. That is what happened with me. And those people, I am equally disappointed. I'm equally disappointed with the committee that was put in place to advise or to investigate or what have you, the recommendation that they've made. If I am charged, I must be given an opportunity to speak, to defend myself. What the charge is on. Until now, these things are too flimsy. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that Vanessa, the party has seen it fit to remove the hurdles, and I hope that she takes the opportunity to continue political life. Because I believe, I'll tell you something, I have seen Vanessa Kissoon in action. I believe that when it comes to dealing with political issues or political questions, she's a whippersnapper. she's good. She's good as a political person. These are the type of people that the leadership of the PNC over the last couple of years should have been keeping very close to them.
Very, very close. Justice for Vanessa Kissoon. We have a lot of comments here on the information you furnished just now about trade unionism and the role of Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow in framing and pioneering trade unionism in the British Empire. Marlon is saying here that he didn't know all of that information, you know, and so sometimes, as I say on this program, you know, we do our activism and our political mobilization, but it's also about education. Lincoln mentioned 1926, and you know, Critchlow and a number of the others were coming back from a trade union conference somewhere in Europe, and they stopped at a conference that Du Bois had, a Pan-African Congress, and they came back to the Caribbean. And Lincoln, one of the things, apart from all those things that you were talking about there, they were talking about Caribbean integration, one Caribbean. When he and the others came back in 1920.
In 1926, the 1926 conference, one of the decisions was to establish a Guyana West Indian Association.
Yes.
Right? It was the first meeting of leaders in the Caribbean. It preceded the issue of CARIFTA and CARICOM.
Long.
These guys were more integrationists than many who talk. Nowadays, it's about integration. It's about conning people, you know. But the man was and when that 1926 conference, the precursor to the conference was a meeting. It was held at the City Hall, right? Then the conference was held in the hollow halls of the Parliament of this country.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? We had independence. Right? The colonials were in charge, but the trade union leaders in the Caribbean could have had their conference in Parliament. You don't know what happened? If we go there and say we want to talk about issue, they put barricade around it.
Around the Parliament.
And police, you can't go there. And the people who benefited from the struggles of the trade union are the people now who are putting systems in place to deny workers what is just and fair for them.
Yeah. I remember learning that information in a graduate course on Pan-Africanism at Howard University. And we were looking, Du Bois had 3 conferences there in the 1920s. And then when I looked at the delegates, people who were there, I saw Critchlow. And then I saw some of the other Caribbean trade. I said, what? These people were part, and then I went on. I did a long paper for that course on the trade unions in the Caribbean and their role in Pan-Africanism, because I didn't know that. I knew that, you know, I knew of the trade union and the trade unionists and so on, but didn't know of their international role and what they were doing in trade unionism interface with the larger Pan-Africanist movement that was started at the turn of the 20th century. You know, people like Butler in Trinidad and Tobago was, of course, from Grenada. You had the one from Grenada itself. His name is escaping me now, but the trade unionists of that time. The phones are open, 604-9722. Please give us a call. So that you can get your questions to Mr. Comrade Lincoln Lewis. Lincoln, the issue of the Congress coming up, the PNC Congress, and getting the PNC back on its feet. You and I have talked privately about a strong PNC being an essential tool in holding our country together, because we are a multi-ethnic society. And if we have ethnic parties or people supporting the parties based on ethnicity, and you have one of the parties in power doing as it likes, and then the other party being weakened, what you do is that the balance of power is being altered. And then it opens the way for ethnic domination and ethnic oppression, ethnic economic genocide. Your take?
Just before you go there, Mr. Lincoln, we have a call online.
Okay, go right ahead.
Caller, go ahead.
Can you, both of you guys speak to the Afro-Guyanese in reference to where do they take their will end up?
Can you speak up a little? We can hardly hear you.
We're not hearing you clearly. Let's speak up some more.
I'm asking Dr. Hines and guests to speak to the African Guyanese in Guyana about where do they think they will end up if they do not fight for their rights here in Guyana. Because it seems like they're sitting and waiting for I don't know what. And with all the stuff that's taking place, it just seems like they're in a trance or they're simply not here. And I would like you guys to, speak to that too. I know you guys have been encouraging the Afro-Guyanese to, do more than what they're doing, but it just seems like it's, to no avail. So I would like for you guys to again pronounce it, how important it is for them to, stand up for their country. That's all I got.
Lincoln, you got the question there. I think the caller wants you to comment on the question of African Guyanese rights and the struggle in Guyana today.
Let me tell you what. Let me preface this by saying that I come from an organization that speaks about creating a just and fair society. And for us to have that, we need to respect the rights of every citizen. In any case where any group rights are being denied or being trampled, the organization that I come from, we advocate against that act, be it by a government or be by any group. In this specific case is that I always believe that the PPP will not respect African leaders or leaders that are elected by the African community. They will always try to find an African man who looks like an African, but who don't have the spirit and intent to lead them out of bondage and put them to say that this is the man I'm putting to lead you. What you have right now, you have had Sam Hines, you now have a Phillips. They were never being elected or never been carrying support of the African community, but they put them there and they say, look, here we have African leaders here. And many other persons you may find within. Those persons are faces, and they will make them comfortable, that they can satisfy their personal interests, but don't advocate on behalf of the group. I've said all of that to say this to you, that the faster we come to term to understand that the cards are stuck against the African community. And the African community has to get up. Leaders will have to hold hands with the support of the community to advocate for change in this situation. Let me give you an example. You have the oil and gas, the new economy. If you check the contractors that are there, the African communities represented in that group is minuscule in that group. And the contracts that they may get is not something where they can employ 10 people. Those contracts that you have where crew members are employed for the platform, the oil platforms and so on, those contracts. Not one African company or person own one. This is where it comes in, where you need to sit down. It is not only the people down there, but the political leaders need to call Exxon and say to Exxon, we will not have a situation where we have countries' contracts are skewed against our support base. So I'm putting it this way, that there are ways and means we can do this thing. The question here is that the point is that we are conscious that the government will not help the community. They will make sure that we become employees and not employers, right? And for that, as such, we need to do it differently. But I agree with the caller. Our people need to agitate more, and our leaders need to be more strident in delivering for the communities.
And delivering for our communities. Before we take the next call, somebody asked whether Garvey was part of the trade union movement. By that time, Garvey was in the United States, but Garvey came out of the trade union movement. Garvey went to Costa Rica and organized the banana workers there in a trade union. So he came out of the trade union movement. Yes, And the African Brotherhood, the Blood Brothers, made up mostly of Jamaicans in the United States, was a socialist organization, but a lot of those members were part of the trade unions there in the United States. So
the underground, the
railway underground, yes, the Porters Union. So although Garvey was not part of the formal English-speaking Caribbean trade union movement, because by then he had gone to the United States and was there, but he got his early beginnings in trade unionism, and even before he left Jamaica to go to Central America to organize the trade union, the banana workers there. He was working in the printery, in his uncle's printery in Kingston, and had begun to organize workers there in informal ways. And then he went to Curacao there, and a lot of the West Indian leaders passed through Curacao. Eric Gary worked, because of the oil refinery there. And Garvey was there, and Garvey also interfaced with workers there. But he did organize workers in Costa Rica into trade unions. So that's the answer to your question.
Doc, we have another caller online.
Caller, you're on there.
Good night to the entire team. I would like to say something now. With the workers, those 3,000 odd workers that have been kicked off the job forcibly because they weren't laid off, they have been kicked off the jobs. Now the PPP is reseverencing some of their Gaisuku workers. I would like to know if those people who they kicked off the job, the 3,000 plus, if there could be severance. One, number two, now the GCOM workers, starting from Mr. Louisville and others, they are off the job. They were given something and they had to come off the job. They went on leave. By the time they go on leave, next thing you know, they finished the contract or whatever. I would hope that seeing they were there off the jobs, they took them to court. They dropped cases against the whole set of them, including clemency. They dropped the charges. Now they reinstitute charges, minusing clemency. And they have not proven a case against the persons like Lowenfield and the others. But there is it. They are putting up their jobs for hire. And I believe that that should not be, because if you carry me to court, public service law is that you take somebody to court even if the person is pending an investigation. You could put them off the job for half month salary. You cannot dismiss the person not until a conviction has been made. When the conviction has been made, well, all right, the person got to be laid out because he shouldn't be a felon and still be working in the public service. So that is one part. Now the third part, where they are asking Mr. Harmon to meet with the installed fraudulent regime. I hope when Mr. Harmon, and I don't think Mr. Harmon should go to the meeting, but if he runs and he goes to the meeting, they will have a feather in the cap that they just prop up something and he come running. And now the mudslinging gonna pass, how he's weak to go. But should he play playing a little lappy puppy, they have to run and go to them, to the whims and the fancies. I hope he will put on the table the reinstatement of the 3,000 plus workers. Lastly, now with this thing with Exxon, I could remember when APNU was the person who let the entire world know, along with Exxon, we were all nation. When we got in, we were just trusted into the realm of an oil state. After coming in, after 23 years cleaning up, and the PPP had a lot of things were talking APNU for their handling of Exxon. Now PPP has gone in, and although you could see howsoever they get the money, they are going on exotic holidays, places to Dubai, all around the place, holiday. And now they got pensioners, like the NIS pensioners. They give 25% one-off to the old age pensioners. The school children get, now that thing they're announcing a 3%. I would like to know what percentage of increase the NIS pensioners will be getting, because they haven't made any figure for the NIS pensioners. And once you give pensioner, and people don't think, they mean that all pensioners should get this money. So I hope something could be meted out for people. And I hope those who are at the head could see fit to fight, because if Mr. Lowenfield and his team has not been indicted has not been convicted in a court of law for any wrongdoing whatsoever, and the recount show that Lowenfield and his team have not performed an electoral fraud like what the PPP is saying, I don't think that they should be off the job. That is my say for tonight. Bye-bye.
Lincoln, any comment?
I got two things I want to deal with.
Okay.
On the issue of the Lowenfield and Myers and others who were sent home, they had a contractual arrangement. It is not a question of the contract here. It's the manner in which these things are being done. What they did was to seek to demonize these officers. Demonize these officers. They have a way where there are some people who are no good. That's how the PPP operate. We are good. You over here, you are good, and over there, they are no good. What they did is to seek to demonize Lowenfield, Myers, and others. To tell the world that they know damn good. And all those people a number of persons who they sent home, like London, like Trevor Benn, you know, even if the cases even when the cases will be dismissed in court, is that they have done so much damage to the image of these people that even they've got to look for a job regionally and internationally. That stain is on them. What the PPP is doing, they're saying that it's only they people who. These are thieves. These men are thieves, but they're judging other people. And they have a machinery. We have a media a media that is devious, that help them sell that message. You talk earlier about Burke and Sherrod Duncan and Benscop and so on. Let me tell you what, if we had these little houses, media houses, online operation, they would have destroyed. They would have destroyed Guyanese who express another opinion beside you. They would have done it already. The other matter that I want to deal with is the issue of the NIS. You know, the NIS was established in 1969.
Yes.
And let me say to you that what happened then. The PPP came out against the NIS.
Yes.
They campaigned against the NIS.
Yes.
Right? They did no support until they came to power. Then they see the NIS as something. Let me tell you about this NIS. The NIS is somewhat in deficit. The TUC argue, you know, we wrote the President Granger and we had written to Jack Dio. And we said, take some of the money in the NIS from the oil and float back this NIS. You know why? The NIS makes provision from the inception. It makes provision. It makes provision for unemployment benefit.
Yeah.
And no one, that has never been activated. We have an opportunity now where we have this money. We can use that money to float the NIS, bring it to the point where we can look at unemployment. These are benefits in helping a society, helping your people. Somebody get dismissed, or for some reason they're not being employed, they can go there and get unemployment benefit. I guess a number of people are not aware of it. I've written a number of times about it. I've spoken about it in the past. This NIS needs to be taken. And it needs a reform. It needs a total reformation. I've seen that. I will not say that you don't need reformation. But I'm saying that the monies that you're receiving or the benefits that that people are getting is their actuarial benefit, but while actuarial benefits that are arrived at through our actuarial studies, but while it is so, we can do better taking some money, float the NIS, and you can help people. Man, the 6 months he can get, when he making effort to get a job, he can get a job, he can get something. What we do is minimize the temptation when people's back are to the wall, when they are unemployed, that they will have to go and lead a life of crime. We have to do something.
Yes. Thank you very much, dear Lincoln Lewis. I want to acknowledge that tonight we are live on Ben Shop Radio. So even as we are live here on CAMS TV, we're also live on Ben Shop Radio tonight. I want to hail up Brother Mark for hosting us tonight. In Lincoln would remember there was a group of us, Mark Benchop, Lincoln, myself, our erstwhile friend who was becoming. No. Don't mention that name. But we had people like Ram Sarup, Boyo's son, who was now migrated to Germany. We had your brother trade unionist, what's his name? Who used to be out, but we used to be part of a closely knit team. And in the mornings, somebody would call, Mark would call, or Lincoln would call and say, where are we going today? And we said, we're going and visit Sam today. And we would go down to the Prime Minister's office and protest there, or we go to some ministry, or we go to the Square of the Revolution. But Lincoln, in those days, Sam was always different. You remember when we went to his office, he came out. He came out and he
come out to talk.
He came out to talk. Yeah, I remember that morning. But in those days when the opposition had, was weakened and apparently, had given up, a lot of people think that this period that we're going through now with the formal opposition party not being as militant as it should be is the first time. No, coming on to the latter years of the PPP government, the late 1990s and the early 2000s,
But David, yeah. I'll tell you what. I remember what rekindled that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I always remember it. They had passed a bill, anti-terrorist bill or something like that.
Yes.
And I was in Peru, and I was reading this thing here where Aubrey Norton was talking about it, and he said this will kill protests, because if you protest, you'll get locked up and what have you. Aubrey was in Parliament.
Right. Yes, and
I came home. I remember coming home, and when I reached the Barbados, I was doing work with the CCL then. I had to spend like about 5 days in Barbados, and I called Mark Benskop. And I said, Benskop, I'm coming. We're going to picket in front of the office of the president. They said they're going sacred, but we're going to challenge them now. And I turned up. I called Witter, and I called the man who you had wanted to raise his name.
Don't call his name on this program.
Right. And we went in front of the office of the president, and we started to picket. The FITOC GAU delegation was going to meet with the president. Okay? So Roy Trotman, who was vice chair for the workers group at the ILO, they were taking him to pay a courtesy call thing. And when Trotman turned up in front of the office of the president, he saw us picketing and he turned back. He said he will not be part of walking through that picket line to go to talk to the president when he see trade union leaders and others outside there.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
At least we were able to while we rekindled the protest from them, we were able to make a statement that Fatman turned back because they were to take out Fatman photograph and they were to make a big story. The czar for the the workers group in the ILO, who also served as president of the International Trade Union Confederation, come and pay a courtesy call. You know they're going to play the good. But I tell you what, I remember well, it was after we were locked up, Witter, Ben Scap and I were locked up, that gave the impetus
Yes.
or energized the protest after that. So the period that we spent in the lockup with all the filth and what have you, you know, it paid off.
Yes,
It
I
paid off.
remember those days quite well.
And I
We're coming
remember,
up to
David,
program time.
when you came in, you joined the thing.
Yes,
You know?
yes. I remember Ben Shop calling me and said, Doc, hurry up and finish the class quick and come
You got a caller?
find this thing. We're coming down to program time. Do we have any call on the line, Mr.
We got a
Operator?
caller. Come on by. You got a
Okay,
caller.
go right ahead. We'll take this last
Go
call.
ahead. Go ahead, caller.
Hi. Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Hines. Good night.
Go ahead.
But yes, good evening. One of our regular and one of my favorite callers. Go right ahead. You have the last say tonight.
Okay. I have a lot to say, but I have a limited time. Anyway, the PPP. I want to talk about the PPP. The PPP with dictatorship. That's what they're all about. And another thing is, Barjack, there is placing people in places and authorities in command for his purposes only, because he want to be in command or in charge, as they would say, for a very long time. And Jack Dale do not care about the Guyanese people at all, because number one, cost of living is sky high. That's one. Our people, our Guyanese people, democratic right has been flown to the window. It's no more there. It's not there anymore. ExxonMobil is robbing the Guyanese people of their own assets. We have no say, and we have no rights on what has been ours for a long time, and it belongs to us, and we cannot say anything. But I think the Guyanese people should come together. Both Afro-Guyanese and Indian Guyanese should come together as one to get these people out of parliament. And I don't know why it's taking so long for us to get them out of parliament. Isn't there anything that they can do with the tribunal or something to get these people out of there? Because they're doing nothing for the Guyanese people benefits. In conclusion of that, pollution of the sea. The fishing industry right now is damaged, really damaged to the extreme. It's almost over 100% damaged. I was listening to a show the other day, and a boat owner, I think she's from Currentine, she was talking about she has so many boats and she has nothing to do with them because there's no fish. They don't catch any fish. She has to park 2 boats, plus she has to put one out there and the expense is not there. Then she has 4 kids and she keep reminiscing about it, that the government is doing nothing. Now the ExxonMobil is polluting the water, so the fishes is not going to be around anymore. And we will have to be importing fish when we used to be exporting fish to other countries as a big market as well. Now the resources that we have is being sold for next to nothing. Next to nothing. On top of that, we have to foot the bill for everything for ExxonMobil, which there's no insurance. there's no insurance in terms of if there's a oil spill. There's no insurance to back us up. We will have to be paying for that. All taxpayer money is going to that to pay for all the damages that ExxonMobil is doing. And then the renegotiation of the contract. Barrett Jack, there seems to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to renegotiating the contract. On top of that, I don't know why Indian people who put them in there, they're always saying this thing. There's a saying on the Mr. Hines, there's a saying now, I think you will find this one very funny. The Indian people are saying they prefer to eat grass. They prefer to eat grass before a black man rule. That's what they prefer. And Moonshine Jack, David Air, Flap Ali is doing nothing to benefit this country. And I think we need to come together and get these people out. I don't know how we're going to do it, because the other day I was talking about the rights about the president, Irfan Ali. He had went into parliament with 19 fraud charge, and there was nothing we can do about it. And he was a political candidate with these charges pending. Now, they seem to say that the law is in their hands, and they could change the law if they want to. And they could have all the charges dismissed against all their cabal political members of the PPP. I don't think it's fair that they're pressuring other people and they're making things easy for them. And then they're turning their eyes, and they're turning their deaf ears to people complaints as well. Because nobody's going to take this for long. Because everybody's going to be suffering in the long run. Even our great-grand and grandchildren will be suffering with these people if they continue like this. And I don't think they should be in parliament any longer. I think we need to get something put together, at least protest, shut the country down, or do something to get these people out, because ExxonMobil has been doing a lot of things in this country that we cannot say nothing about. Jack Deere is not saying anything about it. Irfan Ali is not saying anything about it. They're just condoning everything that ExxonMobil say. If ExxonMobil told Jack Deere to do X, Y, and Z, that's what he does. And he's going on social media and talking as if, they're not getting money. You would believe that ExxonMobil is walking away with $36 billion per year, and we are only getting $3 billion? Isn't that a little bit overrated?
Yes, that's a lot overrated. Thank you very much, my sister, for coming through as usual and giving us that other perspective. And stay safe. Mr. Lewis will have the last word. He'll probably comment on some of your statements there. Lincoln, you have the last word because we're down to program time.
Let me once again, let me thank the viewership for their time. And let me say to you that I am happy that you have taken time out to invite me. I thought you had thrown me to the waste paper basket. Well, let me say to you that we have to fight back. And this is politics. And what you need is political action. In politics, we can talk about the laws and the Constitution. But in this game here, laws and Constitution don't mean anything to the current government. They want to do as they feel they should do. But we have to find ways and means to stop them from doing so. I know people are concerned. I believe that for us to fight, the persons whose voices are marginalized, for those who are denied an opportunity to sharing the national patrimony, right? We need to work with a strong opposition. And working with a strong opposition requires a strong PNC too, because that's a major force in the coalition. We hope that they will have the election, the Congress have the elections. Whosoever wins become the leader. And the team that they may have, that team will be prepared to work with agencies like not only political parties, but with agencies like the trade unions and other non-governmental agencies. This requires a long and tedious exercise. But for doing it, you have to get the people on board. It was yesterday I was talking with somebody and they said to me, I met this guy, he was giving me the example and this is what the guy said. So I asked him, did you ask the guy what he is prepared to do? Right? I'm saying to you that, to the viewership, that all of us, in our little way, have to chip in. Right? Have to chip in and do what ought to be done. You know, I remember the 19 the oil protests. I remember meeting so many people and talking with so many people, and I've made so many friends during that period. What you need is protests of that nature. People will tell you that for those who want to tell you that you ought not to protest, let me tell you this. Let me make this point to all of you. That the greatest armory in the trade union is a strike and a protest. If you ask us, can you ask the people to give up protest in the street? You are saying that what they must do is roll over and allow the establishment to continue to trample on them.
The voice of Lincoln Lewis
to the private sector people who tell you that we're going to lose money and we're going to lose this and we're going to lose that. Yes. If you support the violation of people's rights and the violation of the laws and the transgression of people's rights, then you must pay the price somehow. Don't tell me what we must not do. Go and tell your masters what they should do, how they should treat people. Tell them to stop creaming off the coffers, the money in the consolidated fund. Tell them to respect people's rights. Tell them don't only go in their district and build roads, and you building roads in your in your supporting district, you give a contract to your supporters. When you come to the other villages, you bring your contractors inside there to do the roads. That means that we must not get anything. This thing got to change, man.
All right.
We got to fight back. We got to do it differently.
We have to fight back.
We can't allow it to happen.
Yes,
okay?
The message there of Lincoln Lewis. We have gone way past our time. We've gone over by 15 minutes, but it was worth it. Lincoln, thank you very much for coming through tonight, and we certainly will be in touch. I want to thank all the viewers. I want to thank Camps TV for giving us its platform. I want to thank Mark Benshop Radio for hosting us tonight. APNU AFC, who are hosting us on their YouTube platform. I want to thank you, and I want to thank my operator, Andrew Weeks. And of course, to thank all of you in the audience for coming through tonight and staying true to this tradition that we are building. As you go in peace. Tell Sherrod good night. And I know when you all finish with Sherrod, you're all going on to Mark Benchop. Tell Mark good night for me too, because we are all working as a team as we try to keep you informed and keep you mobilized. Good night until I see you again next week.
Please help keep Politics 101 on social media and broadcast television. If you are in North America, please donate via Cash App or PayPal.
If you are in Guyana and the Caribbean and don't have access to Cash App and PayPal, email your pledge to dhines6106@aol.com and we will direct you how to get your donation to us. Thank you in advance for your donation.